In 2026, the truck market is in chaos. Buyers are locking themselves into $1,200 a month payments on flashy trucks that lose value almost immediately, ending up tens of thousands upside down. Trucks used to be the safe buy. So, how did some of them become basically worthless overnight? Let's get into the 8 trucks taking the hardest hit this year. Number 8. The Ford F-150 Lightning. First on the list of worthless metal is the Ford F-150 Lightning. I really wanted to love it, and honestly, a lot of people did. The idea sounded perfect on paper. A silent torque monster that could even power your house felt like the future showing up early. So why did something that exciting start losing its shine so quickly? In 2026, the Lightning is starting to feel a lot like the Betamax of trucks. Production pauses began happening because dealer lots were filling faster than they were clearing. That tells you something without anyone needing to say it out loud. If a vehicle is that advanced, why were so many units sitting unsold? When supply starts stacking up, resale value is usually the first thing that takes a hit. Early buyers are learning that the market for second-hand electric trucks is still uncertain, especially when newer battery tech keeps arriving faster than expected. And then there's the real-world use side of things. Range anxiety sounds like a buzzword until you actually try to use the truck like a truck. Towing long distances changes the experience fast, and for some owners, that's where the excitement fades into planning stops instead of just driving. What happens when the initial thrill of instant torque and futuristic features starts wearing off? At first, the trunk space, the quick 0 to 60 times, and the novelty give you that rush. It feels like stepping into the future. Over time, though, the day-to-day reality starts to matter more. Charging plans, resale uncertainty, and shifting tech cycles slowly replace that early excitement. And that's the strange part. The Lightning still does a lot of things right. But for some buyers, the gap between the idea of the truck and the way it fits into real life becomes impossible to ignore. Number 7. The Ram 1500 TRX. Then you've got the Ram 1500 TRX. This one hurts a little because it's a gremlin of a truck that feels like it wants to fight gravity and win every time you touch the throttle. So what happens when something built to be wild suddenly feels out of place? In 2026, the TRX is starting to look like a dinosaur staring at the asteroid. Ram brought the supercharged V8 back one last time, and the presence is still undeniable. But the reality around it has started to shift. If it's still one of the most exciting trucks ever built, why is the shine starting to fade? The price tags creeping toward $100,000 changed the conversation fast. Add in the 10 miles per gallon reality check, and the ownership experience starts feeling heavier than the horsepower sounds. What once felt like a dream machine begins to look more like a commitment that follows you everywhere. And then there's the upkeep. This isn't a simple pickup that just runs and runs. The maintenance reads like a specialist's checklist. High-pressure systems, performance parts, and fuel costs that stack up week after week. It's the kind of machine that feels incredible when everything is right, but demanding when it becomes part of daily life. Now, what happens when the excitement of a 700-plus horsepower meets the reality of everyday ownership? At first, it's pure adrenaline. The sound, the power, the way it moves makes every drive feel like an event. Over time, the fuel bill and upkeep become part of the routine, and that routine starts to wear on people. For some buyers, the second-hand market reflects that tension. It still attracts attention, but long-term commitment becomes a harder sell. The TRX is still an absolute force. It feeds energy and ego in a way few trucks can. But living with that level of intensity every single day comes with a cost. And that's where the experience slowly shifts from thrilling to heavy. Number 6. The Toyota Tundra. Next up is the Toyota Tundra, and this one really stings because it messes with something people believed in for years. Toyota was the natty king of reliability. You bought a Tundra because it felt like it would outlast everything around it. So what happens when that reputation suddenly takes a hit? The 2024 and 2025 models ran into serious trouble. Reports of catastrophic engine failures tied to the new twin-turbo V6 started spreading, and the confidence people once had began to crack. If reliability was the entire reason people chose a Tundra, what happens when that trust starts slipping? The conversation changes fast. The Toyota tax, which people used to accept because of long-term dependability, started feeling more like a penalty once engine concerns entered the picture. In 2026, that shift is showing up in the used market, where hesitation is becoming more common. Some regions are seeing dealers grow cautious about taking them as trade-ins. No one wants to be stuck holding a high-dollar truck with uncertainty attached to it. When a vehicle's reputation is built almost entirely on trust, even a small crack feels bigger than it should. What happens when one thing people counted on suddenly feels uncertain? The value loss starts to feel heavier because it's not just about the engine, it's about confidence. People bought Tundras expecting that familiar, bulletproof reputation. When experimental tech feels rushed or unproven, that expectation takes a hit, and the market reacts. It's a strange shift to watch. The truck still has presence, capability, and brand loyalty behind it. But once trust gets shaken, even slightly, the feeling changes. And for many owners, that change matters more than any spec sheet ever could. Number 5. The GMC Hummer EV. And then there's the GMC Hummer EV. This thing feels less like a truck and more like a $100,000 ego trip that weighs as much as a small planet. It's dramatic, it's fast-acting, and it gets attention instantly. But what happens after that first wave of excitement fades? If it's built to be the future of trucks, why are so many owners already feeling stuck with it? As a showpiece, it works. As a daily truck, it starts to feel awkward. It's heavy, oversized, and not exactly practical for trails, tight parking, or regular hauling. Early buyers are starting to realize the early adopter glow doesn't last forever, and the depreciation curve hits hard once the novelty wears off. The electricity bills stack up, and the resale value drops faster than expected. It still makes people stare. It still feels powerful. But once the party's over, some owners are left wondering where the value actually went. Number 4. The Nissan Titan. Next, we have to talk about the Nissan Titan, or more accurately, the ghost of Nissan Titan. Nissan finally pulled the plug, and in 2026, it's starting to feel like the truck that time forgot. What happens to a vehicle when the platform itself disappears? It doesn't suddenly become bad overnight, but relevance fades fast. Parts support slowly turns into a scavenger hunt, and the resale value reflects that uncertainty. Buyers get cautious about investing in something that no longer has a future roadmap. It's cheap and accessible, but that deal feeling can turn into a long-term commitment when it's time to sell, and there are very few takers. It still runs, it still does truck things, but the market moves on, and once it does, it rarely looks back. Number 3. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Then there's the Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Specifically the high-trim diesels. The 3.0-liter Duramax is genuinely impressive when it comes to fuel economy, and on paper, it feels like smart engineering. But complexity has a way of catching up over time. What happens once those systems start aging and the warranty safety net disappears? Sensors, DEF systems, and unexpected limp mode situations begin to shape the ownership experience. Around the 60,000-mile mark, the value drop becomes noticeable because out-of-warranty repairs can get expensive fast. Some owners are moving back to simpler gas engines, and used lots are filling up with high-trim diesels that still look like luxury suites, but carry the weight of potential repair costs. At first, it feels like a smart, efficient choice. Later, the maintenance side can start to feel heavier than the savings. Number 2. The Jeep Gladiator. Next, we hit the Jeep Gladiator. Back in 2022, this was the cool kid. It had the lifestyle image, the off-road vibe, and the open-air freedom. So, what changed in 2026? If it was built to be both a Jeep and a truck, why are so many people letting them go? The novelty started wearing off. On highways, the brick-like aerodynamics and constant road noise began to feel exhausting on longer drives. The market is saturated with used Gladiators because many owners realized the lifestyle appeal didn't always match daily reality. It looks incredible in the driveway. It feels a lot different on a 500-mile trip. It's undeniably cool, But cool doesn't always translate into comfort or practicality long term. Number 1. The Ram 1500 e-Torque Mild Hybrid. And finally, there's the Ram 1500 with the e-Torque Mild Hybrid setup. On paper, it sounds like smart engineering. A 48-volt battery, a belt-driven motor generator, smooth stop-starts, and a little boost in efficiency. But long-term ownership tells a different story. If the system is designed to save fuel, why are so many second-hand buyers hesitant? Because complexity introduces risk. The e-Torque setup relies on a lithium-ion battery pack tucked behind the rear seat, and as these trucks age into the 2026 used market, that battery becomes a major question mark. Replacement costs can run into the thousands, and labor adds another layer because accessing the system is not simple. The fuel savings feel good at first. Later, the potential repair costs start to cancel that out. And what happens if the system doesn't just stop working, but starts affecting the whole truck? Owners are reporting warnings, sudden loss of stop-start functions, and situations where the truck drops into reduced power modes. Because the system is deeply tied into the powertrain, a failure can affect overall drivability. Suddenly, a feature meant to help efficiency becomes a failure point that makes buyers nervous. It feels like smart tech when everything works. When it doesn't, it becomes one more expensive layer that buyers would rather avoid. And that's really the pattern across the 2026 truck market. Why are the trucks losing the most value all starting to look similar on paper? Because the ones dropping fastest are often the ones that tried to be too complex, too experimental, or too far ahead of where the market was ready to go. Simpler trucks with proven setups are holding steadier because people trust what they understand. So, before you jump into your next truck, take a step back and think long-term, not just first impressions. If you've owned any of these, I'd honestly like to know how your experience turned out. Drop a comment and tell me what held its value and what didn't. And if you want more real talk like this, stick around and subscribe.